on Facebook. Hi, Facebook. Hi, YouTube. I'm just going to wait for some of you guys to tune in. Hello, 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 hello. Tune in. Come on in to my live. Happy Friday, guys. I can't believe we have literally almost only 3.5 months left for the year to end. 785 says, this red lip is everything. So does 𝐂𝐀𝐋𝐋. Thank you, guys. I love red lipstick and generally wear them on my casual days these days. For those of you who don't know me, let me introduce myself. My name is 𝐂𝐻𝐸𝐻. I'm an immigration attorney, and I represent clients all over the United States with a family immigration matter. My number is 407-995-6567. You can also send us a WhatsApp, 404-333-8751. We can represent you regardless of your location. Immigration is federal law. So even though our offices and our headquarters really is in Atlanta, because that's where I live, we also have an office in Florida, but we represent clients all over the United States. So your location really doesn't matter if that's something that's of concern to you. Today, I really just wanted to delve into a lot of the recurring kind of questions I get asked about VAWA. I get a lot of questions about VAWA. I just sort of compiled some of the questions that I answer again and again and again, just to go over them with you guys. And if you do have questions about VAWA, you can definitely put it in the comment. And if I see it, I will try my best to answer it. Shannon says, good morning. I asked a question and you didn't answer. Well, I don't know when you ask a question. Not that you're entitled to me answering the question. I don't have to answer every question. But if your question was one I saw and I was able to answer it, I definitely try to answer it. But as I'm sure people, the way it works when you're live is that the ticker is just going up, when people are coming on live and questions. So sometimes I don't see it. But if you have a question, that's not answered, you can also schedule a consultation to get, focused attention on yourself. Okay. All right. Chidinma Usudu says, I've been following you for a long time and you've given me hope on my VAWA journey. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Good morning, Saffron. Hi, Sexy Kim. Bless. Chidi says, do you charge for consultations? Yes, I do. Hi, Ashani. Kachi said, is it compulsory to use an immigration lawyer to file my papers when I'm married, or do I do it myself? There's nothing that's compulsory in America. America's a free country. You can even file your divorce yourself. You don't need a lawyer. You can represent yourself in court per se. People use lawyers because they know this is something serious and because they want to get it right the first time. But you can do whichever one you want to do. Ashani said, world's best lawyer. Thank you. Okay, so let's jump into it. So the first thing that I get asked all the time is, how long does a VAWA petition take? How long do they take to approve a VAWA case? So as with everything else, it depends, but this is the average time. Most VAWA cases can take from anywhere from 24 months to 2.5 years. That is the average. When I mean average, I mean that 80% of people are going to fall into that category. You will find some people that theirs end up being approved earlier, maybe like 18 months earlier or later, because maybe they had requests for additional evidence or an NOID and they had to add other supporting evidence. But 80% of applicants will fall in that pool of 2 years to 2.5 years for the VAWA petition to be, for them to make a decision on your case. There will always in every immigration case be what we call an anomaly, meaning their stuff was approved really early. And I will tell you, in my own practice personally, I know the reason why all those anomalies were approved early, because it had something to do with an error the USCIS made where I had to get a supervisor involved. So that is the timeline. Typically, after your VAWA is approved, if you have an adjustment of status, which is a green card application 485, attached to that, you will be scheduled for an interview for that. That could take a couple of months, it could be a couple of weeks, it could be up to like 6 months. So it's different for everyone depending on the field office and the caseload of the field office. And so once you go to the field office and you have your interview, that's when a decision is made on the green card. Do note that when you do get a VAWA approval, you get what we call deferred action, meaning that they're not going to deport, you're not deportable, basically, is what it means. That's the easiest layman term to put it. And you can continue to just renew your green card, and just keep asking for deferred action for as long as you want, Before, I just noticed recently with my recent VAWA cases, so normally when you get approved for VAWA, usually you'll get a new work permit. So before they schedule for an interview, they'll send you an approval work permit. So it's different from the work permit that you get when you file for your normal marriage-based case or you file for VAWA with an adjustment of status, because those ones are a matter of right? If you have a pending application. But you don't get a VAWA work permit unless your VAWA case has been approved. So what I was about to say was that before, it used to be like 1 year where they would approve it, but I've noticed that a couple of the ones I've received in the office recently, they're all 2 years. So I'm glad to see that they're also doing that for 2 years, just to give time for those interviews to happen. The second question I have that I get asked all the time is, well, one, what is a prima facie determination letter and how is it renewed? So a prima facie determination letter is a letter that USCIS gives you if they feel that you meet the minimum standards to be classified as a VAWA victim, okay? So they're basically saying we've looked on the surface level and you could technically qualify, but now we're going to use a fine-tooth comb to review it. But before we use a fine-tooth comb, because we know it takes a long time, we're going to give you this prima facie determination letter so that if you're in a state where you're able to get public assistance, you can get it. If you're in if you're able to get into school and need financial assistance, you can get it. If you're in a state where you're allowed to get a driver's license, and you need a driver's license, you can get it. And on that, it will typically list your children who are under 21, as long as they're not US citizens, regardless of where they live, whether they live in America or whether they live outside the country. Okay. And so when you get that first initial prima facie determination letter, what you get is a 1 year prima facie determination letter. And then after that 1 year expires, you will be issued 6 month prima facie letters until they make a decision on your case. You don't have to put in an application for a prima facie determination letter after expire. It is something that's automatically given to you. If you've received it late or you haven't received it and yours has expired, do not panic. They typically tend to send them late, a couple of weeks later. It's fine. It's A-okay. Find something else to panic about, not that. You still have your prima facie determination letter. It's just a USCIS takes time to do it. Okay. And then another question I get asked about VAWA is, can I divorce my spouse, or must I stay with them, or can I stay with them? Because, there's some people that struggle. So I'll talk about the two. There's some people who struggle, who, they're like, well, it's the mother of my child, or it's the father of my child. She's been awful to me, or he's been awful to me, but I'm just not ready to leave the marriage. Or I have some people that say, I don't believe in divorce. Some people say that. And for those people, it's okay. Whether or not you choose to stay with your spouse or not, it doesn't change the outcome of your case. It doesn't change whether they're going to approve you or not approve you. The only thing I would say is that if you choose to stay married to the person and you want to take public assistance, a lot of states will not give you the public assistance as long as you're living, because they feel like they're giving you money that's going to benefit the abuser, essentially. So that's really the only time that whatever. But if you don't care about public assistance, then it really doesn't matter. But honestly, if you choose to stay with your spouse, that's, who am I to tell somebody to leave their spouse? I can have my own personal opinions, but I cannot project that, on my client. the same thing applies. If you want to divorce your spouse, and this has given you the confidence to do that, because a lot of people want to divorce their spouses, but they're very afraid that, well, what if I divorce my spouse and then I won't qualify? You can also divorce your spouse. If you've divorced your spouse and you're just tuning into my live for the first time, and realizing that, oh my gosh, I qualify for VAWA, or whatever the case may be, as long as the divorce happened in less than 2 years ago, you can file a VAWA petition. So if that's you and your spouse is a U.S. citizen, or your ex-spouse is a U.S. citizen or green card holder, you can definitely consult with me. Let's see if you qualify. And then another question is, can I file for adjustment of status after I've submitted my VAWA application? If I didn't know I could submit an adjustment of status, the answer is technically it depends. So it depends on if you're removal proceeding. Removal proceeding is meaning that if you have a court case for deportation or whatnot, the rules are a little bit different there. But if you don't have any deportation proceedings or NTA, and you never knew that you could submit your adjustment of status, or whoever helped you with it didn't know to submit your adjustment of status, yeah, you can submit your adjustment of status. Adjustment of status, again, for those who don't know, is submitting an I-485, which is an actual green card application, also submitting a work permit application and a travel permit application. Okay. All right. Another question that I get asked all the time is, what if my spouse is a legal permanent resident? This is something that confuses people a lot as well, because typically the way the rules of immigration work in the United States is that if your spouse is a green card holder and you've overstayed your time in the United States, typically you cannot file for adjustment of status. You can only file for an I-130, but you must consular process outside of the United States. That's how it typically works with green card holders. With VAWA cases, you've got two options. Right now, visas are current, and visas have been current for the last 2.5 years for spouses of green card holders. Okay, so what that means when I say visa is current for, this only applies to green card holders. This is not applicable to U.S. citizen. What that means is that basically there are green cards available for spouses of green card holders, which means that you can put in your adjustment of status application now at the same time in which you put your VAWA application. I don't know what's going to happen in the next month, in the next 2 months, but I'm speaking of today. And the reason why I say I don't know what will happen the next month or the next few months is that visa availability changes every single month. Every single month, there's a new visa bulletin. So today you can be there, and tomorrow you might not be eligible. And that's why I always say to people, if you're eligible for something, don't dilly-dally. Don't dilly-dally. This is your life, The greatest mistake I think most of us make is that we think we have the gift of time. We don't, okay? Because immigration, like you heard me say several times, is a political thing in the United States. You might qualify for something today, and tomorrow you're going to have a president that might say, nope, I'm appointing somebody else, and we're not going to be pro-immigration, and we're going to make things tighter. So do what you can when you qualify. The other question I get asked all the time is, what if I entered into the country without inspection? I crossed the border, I came with somebody's, visa or whatever the case may be. Can I still qualify for a VAWA application? Yes, if you cross the border, you can still qualify for VAWA and apply for VAWA and actually get your travel permit and work permit, and you can still leave the country and come back into the country as long as you're not in removal proceeding. Now, if there are certain things you did in terms of like identity or basically misrepresented certain things, then we'll look to see whether or not you'll be eligible for a waiver, which we can submit simultaneously at the same time, as your application. Okay. So let me take some questions. So OJ on YouTube says, exactly what I told my friend, immigration law changes like climate change. Exactly. You guys do not understand what myself and many immigration lawyers go through. Like literally on a daily basis, there's certain laws and certain things that I literally, it's like you're studying perpetually. Like, I mean, I finished law school 17 years ago. I've been a lawyer since 2005, but in 2005 and 2006, somewhere around there. The bottom line of what I'm trying to say is that even still at that, we still have to study because the laws change. And every time there's a new memorandum, oh, here's another email of a new rule. Here's another whatever. We're constantly reading, and it's the same way. Like, so certain things with TPS, today you qualify, tomorrow you don't. Right now, they're not taking new DACA applications. Tomorrow they may. So it's just a back and forth. And so that's, you really have to be on it when you can. Good morning, Christine on Facebook. Jamie says, I was told last year, August, that they're ready to schedule me for an interview, but have not been called yet. Okay, this is a common confusion for a lot of people. That's why sometimes, even my clients, when they come, oh, I saw this online, I'm like, just ignore the stuff you see online. USCIS does not upload or update their stuff. When they say ready to schedule for an interview, doesn't mean that they're scheduling for an interview the next day. It could still be a year out. All it means is that your stuff is documentary qualified. They've qualified the documents and they can move it over to the field office. It means absolutely nothing. So if you see that, don't think, oh my gosh, I'm getting an interview rescheduled in like a couple of weeks, so I'm going to get something in the mail. It could still be a year out because you got to remember when it gets to that field office, then it still has to go into their own scheduling to determine when to schedule you or not. Oji says, by the way, you look so beautiful. Thank you so much. That's really sweet. David says, good morning from Georgia, my favorite lawyer. God bless you, marvelous. So thank you, thank you. You guys are filled with compliments today. Thank you all so much. Let me take some questions here on Instagram. I'm under 21. Do you think I can apply for VAWA if my citizen sister abuses me and I can't go back to my country because I have no other elder to guide me? Well, first of all, that's really sad if you feel that way. And, I'm sorry that that's happening in your family. As a sister myself, like I can't imagine, dealing with that with any of my siblings where we have a really close bond. But a sister cannot qualify you for a VAWA petition. And I'll give you other options in a second, but the people that would qualify you to file for VAWA are, one, a parent who's a US citizen or a green card holder, a spouse who's a US citizen or a green card holder, or if you have a child that's over the age of 21 that's a US citizen. So your sister can. That being said, if I don't know the level of your abuse or what is happening, but there are other visas available, which are U visas. If your sister's being, I don't know what kind of abuse you're experiencing, obviously because this is me stepping outside of my lawyer hat for a second, and somebody who loves family. With the U visa, you have to be willing to report your sister, and prosecute your sister, and without knowing how atrocious what it is your sister is doing, and I might be speaking from a place of privilege because I have such a good relationship with my own siblings. There's nothing they can ever do that would ever make me, they're my blood. Like there's nothing they would ever do that will ever make me, put them at risk of being put in jail or something like that. So, I don't know, in your own personal situation, what is happening. And, I'm really sorry that's happening to you, but, those are what the options are, for VAWA. Ms. Thompson said, if you're in removal proceeding, can that affect your VAWA case? So it depends on what you mean when you say affect. So we've had clients who were in removal proceeding where we basically submitted the VAWA petition, and when the VAWA case was approved, we filed a motion to terminate the proceeding. And usually, in order for you to file a motion to terminate the proceeding, it's easier if you can get opposing counsel, basically DHS, Department of Homeland Security, like to get their lawyers to agree with you. Like 2 weeks ago, we just got one where, we submitted this motion saying, we have an approved VAWA. You guys, it's a waste of court resources. Just terminate this proceeding because clearly she was in this marriage and this person was abusive, so we can just do the adjustment of status. And, DHS lawyer, emailed me and said, if I'm willing to just waive the trial, that she's good too. And, they signed it and we sent it to the judge. Judge signed it. And now my client can, get her green card. So in that case, it's not going to affect you. What basically you're asking me is it might affect the kinds of applications you file from a timeline perspective. So that's what happens. But it doesn't affect you as it relates to VAWA. So one thing I will say though is that if you're in removal proceedings and you end up getting married after you enter removal proceedings, whether it's for a marriage-based case or for a case related to VAWA, the standards go from 50% to 75%. What do I mean by that? So typically, in order for you to be approved for a green card, you have to show by a preponderance of evidence. Let me speak it in regular terms, not legal terms. It means you have to show that 50%, that it's 50% likely that, this is a legitimate marriage and this person was extremely close. However, once you enter removal proceeding and the marriage happens after that, it goes from 50% to 75%. Now, instead of a preponderance of the evidence, you have to show clear and convincing evidence that this marriage, in fact, was legitimate. And the reason why is because, there's a high rate of people who enter marriages when they're in deportation as the last attempts to save themselves from being deported. Guys, I still have so many questions. I might not be able to get to your questions, all your questions, but I'm going to try and go as fast as I can. This person says, good morning. I applied for a VAWA case for over 24 months and I haven't heard anything back, although my prima facie was determined. That's good that you got your PFD. As you heard me once I started live, I said that it could take anywhere from 24 months to 2.5 years. So just give it some time. After 2.5 years, you can certainly do an inquiry by letter or have your attorney do an inquiry through the attorney hotline for you. Okay. Pretty says, if your husband divorces you and you didn't know, and you put in your papers while will you still get your green card? Do you mean like you put in your paper for like a marriage-based green card? If that's what you're asking, no, you're not going to get a green card because you're not eligible. You're only eligible to get a green card if you're married, if you're filing based on marriage. Now, if you're asking because you filed a VAWA application and then you got divorced at some point during the VAWA application, that doesn't affect your eligibility. What will just happen is you can either amend at that time with a divorce decree, or after you get approved, when you go to the interview for your green card, you just give them the amendment at that time, letting them know. Generally, personally, how I like to handle immigration is when my client forgot to say something or omitted something and they come to me and after screaming at them, like, why did you forget to say that? No, I don't scream at my client, but you understand? I'm like, why? The first thing I do once we enter an interview is we need to make some amendments. I do not want to give USCIS officer the opportunity to say that. They gave us the opportunity to amend and we didn't amend. It was only after we were badgered, when I say we, my client was badgered, that the client admitted something. So if I know my client did something that they shouldn't have done or omitted something they shouldn't have omitted, especially when it's not going to cost them anything, the first thing I do is we have an amendment. Okay, so please, after I filed for VAWA, I got a letter that says my marriage-based filing was denied, but at the time I already filed my VAWA. I did not get no court letter. Does a denial mean I'm in deportation? No, a denial from USCIS is not an automatic deportation. This is going to be based on the discretion of the officer. Some officers, they're just like, send them to removal. Other officers are like, you know what? This administration has said, don't prioritize people who are not criminals, who are no national threat to the United States as people to deport. So let me just leave them. You know, they deny you, but they just leave you. So that doesn't mean, and then you already have a VAWA in place. So Chidinma, the first thing that you want to do right now is, since your marriage-based filing was denied, you want to put in an adjustment of status that you can attach to your VAWA. That's the very next thing that you should be doing, okay? Adiola says, good to be here with you today. I appreciate your enlightenment. Keep it up. Thank you. Okay, let's see what else we have. Okay. I have advanced parole papers telling me, I have advanced parole. People are telling me it's not good to travel. Can I travel? So Kenroy, I don't know your personal situation or your personal immigration history, so I cannot answer you whether you can travel or not. That be like, I would require a consultation to know about your case. But that being said, an advanced parole is exactly what it is: permission to travel outside the country if you choose to travel outside the country. Typically, if you've never filed any immigration matter before, this is your first immigration petition, you're not in removal proceeding, you've checked on your EOIR, your alien number is coming up clean, by all means travel. I mean, I have some of my clients on live that will tell you that they were like, I told them, I said, go ahead and enjoy your vacation. Go travel, do whatever. And I have some people that are like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. And at the last minute, they're like, you know what, I'm going to take your advice. I'm going to travel. And reported right back to me when they got back. Thank you, thank you for convincing me to go. That was a great vacation. I enjoyed myself. And I'm back. That's what it's there for. Believe it or not, I know that immigration is very scary and stressful for many people. And you just feel that everybody is a public enemy as far as it relates to the US government. But honestly, you really, for those of you who live here in the United States, this truly is a great country. And this truly is a country that cares about humanity. And what I mean by that is they don't even have to give people work permits when their cases are pending, because they don't know if they're going to approve them or not. They don't have to give people travel permits because they don't know whether they're going to approve their case or not. But they're not giving that because they want to be mean. They're giving that because they know that these are human beings, and that human beings need to work to support themselves, and sometimes human beings need to travel. So they're not out to get you. As hard as it is to believe, as long as you're following the laws and the rules, honestly, you will be fine. Okay, I'm gonna take 2 more questions before I jump off. I have a meeting. Let's see. Okay, so somebody said, is the I-485 interview compulsory? It's not. When you say it's compulsory, meaning you must attend, or are you asking, will everyone always have an I-485 interview? If the question is, must you attend? If you were scheduled for an interview, yes, you must attend, or you will be denied. If the question is, does everyone get scheduled for an interview? The answer is no. Not everyone is going to get scheduled for an interview, but majority of people, like 90% of people, will get scheduled for an interview. Okay. So if your friend or your cousin is not scheduled, don't worry if you're scheduled, and don't make you scared. Sexy Tiffy says, can I bring my parents here to the US ASAP if they're in danger in another country? Well, without knowing what your own status is, I can't answer that question because I don't know if you're eligible to petition for your parents. Okay, this one is a good question. And this is my last question. I received my E80 card a couple months ago, was still waiting on the travel card, but I thought they'd come together since it's a combo. So Prior to this year, if you file for a travel permit, work permit, majority of the times it will come as a combination card where your work permit card would have the travel permit approval on the bottom and it acts the same way. Sometime in March or February, there was that period where there was just like a really, really crazy delay in approving work permits. Really, really crazy. Renewal work permits taking like 15 months, 18 months, 24 months. What USCIS decided to do was that they were going to separate travel permits and work permits for some people if it required them to, if it took them longer to make a decision, because they figured that for most people, it will be more important that you're able to work, right? So some people will get the combination card, and some people will get an EAD card, and then a couple months later we'll get a travel permit. Like your travel permit will actually be on a sheet, so it looks like an I-94 document, like with your passport picture on the sheet and like all the details of that stuff on there. So that's how it works. All right, I enjoyed chatting with you guys today. I'm going to be live at 10 o'clock on Tuesdays. I'm moving my lives. My kids are back in school, so my schedule is not as flexible. So I will be trying to come on live earlier in the day on Fridays at about 10:30, which is what time I came on live today. So Tuesdays at 10, Fridays at 10:30. I'll post an announcement about it so you guys can save it. I'd love for you guys to like my Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Share my page with your friends, cousins, family members, whoever you think might, find this information helpful. And if you do want to schedule a consultation, of course, call me 407-995-6567. You can also send us a message on WhatsApp. Our WhatsApp is not our phone number where you can call to schedule. Just send us a WhatsApp. It's 404-333-8751. All right, guys, I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.